Speaking of merchandise, the next portion of the chapter is about commercial commodities or merchandise. Imam al-Buhuti, he says, if its value reaches the nisab of gold or silver, currency, and the purpose of its intentional possession. This is key right here because there's a difference between intentional possession or unintentional possession and how that correlates with paying zakat on that particular item. So intentional possession are things that you received, for example, by way of sale, or through marriage you received something, or a khula. For example, there was the returning of a dowry, so the man would receive that. Receiving a gift or a bequest, or recalling a product. And the intention or the purpose of the moment that you took ownership was commercial in nature. So an example would be you as a female going to receive, as a woman going to receive your dowry, you requested a certain dowry, a certain amount of money or something, and your intention that once you came into possession of it, you were going to sell it. Or you knew that you were going to receive a gift, or someone was presenting you with a gift, and when you accepted and received that gift, your intention was commercial in nature. Because I'm gonna sell. I'm not gonna keep this for personal use. I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna sell this, etc. So he says here, its value from which the nisab is calculated is distributed as zakat. So basically, if the value reaches the nisab, and the nisab is calculated based on gold or silver, then it's to be distributed, the zakat payment, in the form of currency. And it will not suffice to distribute your zakat payment in the form of that merchandise. So if you have a warehouse full of tennis shoes, for example, or running shoes, a warehouse full of shoes, that's your commercial, that's your merchandise, and the value of it is, of course, beyond what's required for the nisab. And you're not going to take 2.5% of those shoes and go and seek out people that are recipients of zakat and say, here's 10 boxes of shoes, or notebooks or pencils or suitcases or whatever your commercial commodity is. You don't give your zakat on merchandise in the form of that merchandise, but you give it in the form of currency. It says, if its possession resulted from inheritance. So now we're talking about non-intentional possession. It's not something that you had to receive. It's something that was given to you, and it came into your possession not by your decision. So that would be like inheritance, or a non-commercial intention. All of the things that we mentioned above, like a sale or marriage, khula, receiving a gift, a bequest, or recalling a product, etc. If when you received them, the intention was not commercial, it was not commercial in nature, then this is that category. It says it is not included with it, because that contradicts the very nature of zakat on commercial merchandise, and therefore does not change by mere intention. So basically, you wouldn't calculate this as merchandise. These items wouldn't be calculated in your zakatable merchandise. And also, if you do have this type of investments or these personal items, and you intend to offer them up for sale, they're still not calculated in your merchandise, because the intention alone is not enough, and it's not how commercial merchandise is. It's basically just intending that, as is mentioned by Ibn al-Qayyid, he said, contradicts the very nature of zakat and commercial merchandise. Commercial merchandise is something that was purchased or it was possessed with the intent of selling, and therefore does not change by mere intention. But it also requires that it be offered for sale. So basically that means if someone gifted you a car, an automobile, they gifted you this car, And you took the car initially like, oh, this is a great car. This is going to be my daily driver. I've been looking for a new car to get back and forth to work. And then a month later, after you're driving the car, you go, you know what? The car is great, but I could really use the cash. I think I'm going to sell the car. The intention now has changed from being a personal item to being a commercial item, a merchandise. But the intention alone does not now require you to calculate that car as part of your merchandise. What is necessary to do that is for you to offer it for sale. So if you go online now and you put it on a forum, or you list it on a website or a marketplace, or you go and put it on a lot and put the for sale sign in it, or you go to an auction and you try to auction your car. At that moment, now you have the intention, and now you've acted upon that intention, which means that that particular item, in this case the car, is actually merchandise for sale, and in that instance it would be added to your other merchandise when it comes to calculating your zakat. It says at the end of the year, it is to be appraised at what would be more advantageous to the poor. Meaning, how do you appraise your merchandise? At what value? Is it gold or is it silver? He says, what would be more advantageous to the poor? And Ibn Qaid, he mentions here, the author Imam al-Bahuti, is not restricting this just to the poor, but he's including all the recipients of zakat. He mentions al-fuqara here because they're typically the majority, but it is applicable to all of the recipients, meaning what would be more advantageous for all of the recipients of zakat, either gold or silver, regardless what currency was used to purchase it. So you're going to look at which one is lower, essentially. And right now, and traditionally, silver has been of lesser value than gold. So you're going to appraise your item, your merchandise, based on the market value of silver. It says, whoever purchases merchandise with the nisab of currency, the nisab of merchandise, or sold merchandise for the nisab, they are to base it on its nisab year and not start a new zakat year. Basically, you stick with that original year. Just because you've purchased something else, you're essentially exchanging one thing for the other, currency for merchandise, etc. You don't start a new year, but you stick with that same year, the year of your currency. You go and basically change it into merchandise. You don't start a new year when you bought the merchandise. Rather, you continuously count the year until it concludes. So 6 months you had the currency, you purchase the merchandise, another 6 months, your zakat year is over, you're going to calculate that. He says they are to base it on its nisab year and not start a new zakat year. This is not the case if it, i.e. commercial merchandise, was purchased with or sold for the nisab of livestock. Livestock is different here, unless the livestock was purchased as merchandise. Because now, either using merchandise or currency to purchase livestock, now we're talking about two very separate things. Unless, of course, you're buying livestock as merchandise. Then now we're still in the same realm of currency and merchandise, which go together, right? So in this case, if you went and you used your money, your currency, or your merchandise to purchase livestock so that it can be your personal herd that you're going to do whatever with, then you start a new zakat year on the livestock. But if you go and you purchase livestock to be merchandise, meaning I'm going to sell this herd, I'm going to sell these animals, and that's my livestock, my business is in animals and livestock, then you're going to keep your original zakat year. So you took your currency, which you had on hand for 6 months, you go and buy livestock to sell as merchandise. The next 6 months will conclude your zakat year, and that is where we will conclude. Zakat.